All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Big show ahead as usual for you guys, Cenk and Anna. And tomorrow we'll both be in Miami, and we hope a lot of you will be as well. Please sign up at tyt.com/rally because we are going to get you some late breaking details on where to meet up. And we need to be able to contact you guys. That's why we have tyt.com/rally. If you are coming to Miami, that is for the debates that are on Wednesday and Thursday, as in tomorrow and the day after. So we're gonna see you guys there. Emma Vigeland is also going to be there. And we're all asking everybody to sign tyt.com/pledge so we can get presidential candidates and politicians to sign. I have more good news headed in that direction that I can't quite reveal yet, but other great folks ready to sign that pledge. So let's make it stronger and stronger as we go along. For now, I can tell you that the first set of people are gonna show up at 4:30 tomorrow at 1442 Biscayne Boulevard. But we'll give you all the details if you sign up at tyt.com/rally. Today, we got a huge show ahead in terms of the kids being abused in the detention centers, a whole range of folks reacting to that, Trump, Meghan McCain, etc. Chris Hayes getting animated. I like that. Go get him, Chris. About damn time. And then we've got, of course, domestic politics and the potential for war, which is what we start with.
Yes. While the Trump administration believed that additional sanctions and very targeted sanctions against top officials in Iran would bring them to the negotiating table, it appears that thus far the opposite has happened. In fact, the president of Iran, Hassan Rouhani, has released a statement. In fact, he also gave a speech where he said, quote, "The White House is afflicted by mental retardation and does not know what to do."
Well, there is an argument to be made. Now, somebody should let Hassan Rouhani know. We don't use that word anymore in America, okay? But other than that, he's not alone in thinking that, and not just in Iran, but here in America.
Now, the Trump administration was dismayed at that comment. Trump himself said the following: "Iran's very ignorant and insulting statement put out today only shows that they do not understand reality." So I just wanna focus on that first sentence in that tweet because he believes that the statement was, quote, "ignorant and insulting." Let me just remind everyone of who Donald Trump is. Take a look.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you gotta see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
So let me continue on with the rest of his tweet. Any attack by Iran on anything American will be met with great and overwhelming force. In some areas, overwhelming will mean obliteration. No more John Kerry and Obama.
So wait, is he threatening to obliterate John Kerry and Obama? Not entirely clear. Okay, so
way to make a potentially disastrous and devastating tweet funny.
Thank you, no problem. But I love that Pompeo also came out and said, "I can't believe how immature and childish the Iranian statement was." Are you kidding, dog? Have you met the president? I mean, you want to talk about immature and childish? Every single thing he does is that way. Oh, yeah, my button's bigger than your button. Okay, water surrounded your island, surrounded by water. Oh, big ocean water.
And Hassan Rouhani is not the only world leader who has made similar statements about Trump. In fact, if you can recall, when tensions were escalating between the United States and North Korea, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called Trump the mentally deranged US dotard.
Okay, dotard just means old fool.
Yeah.
But notice the similarity with mentally deranged. So perhaps the North Koreans and the Iranians would also like us to use the 25th Amendment. Now, we're not gonna take their word for it, but unfortunately, like I said, there is certainly an element of truth in that. But as of course you guys remember, Kim Jong-un and Trump later patched it up, and Trump then said that they had fallen in love. So we are yet unaware that Trump has begun any flirtation with the Iranian president or Ayatollah, but future love letters could be in store if history is any indication. Could you imagine, by the way, maybe I could, I don't know, can you imagine Donald Trump saying, "I have fallen in love with the Ayatollah"?
Honestly, I think it is possible. All the Ayatollah would need to do is compliment him, say nice things about him, and all of a sudden Trump will talk about the love letters that they're sending one another.
Yeah.
Whatever, I'll take it. I'll take it,
yes.
because that's a million times better than escalating tensions with Iran. We should not engage in war. They have military capabilities that I think are being underestimated by the Trump administration, particularly, John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, who are pushing Trump closer and closer to war. This is a disaster.
Yeah. So, and to your point about the compliments versus insults, that's why when I saw the Iranian president's insults of him, I was worried, because that is much more dangerous than downing a drone or attacking tankers, which they didn't do. They did down the drone. It looks like it was more in their waters than what we're claiming, which is international waters. They did not appear to attack the tankers. That appears to be neoconservative propaganda. But all of that pales in comparison to insulting Trump, because that's how he makes decisions, because he is a dotard and he is mentally deranged. So he's like, wait, they insulted me. This is really a big problem now. I don't know if Tucker was right. Maybe John Bolton's right, even though I don't like his mustache. So this is how the child makes decisions. So we have to be really careful. So when I saw that, I was like, more important than any financial or military operation, if they keep insulting the man-child like that, we're gonna have trouble here. So the problem is there's hot-tempered guys on both sides. I don't know if they're hot-tempered. The Iranians are mad because they're like, now you're putting sanctions on the Ayatollah and his close associates. That's us. And so that hurts us financially. And if you're a conservative, you might be like, God, we're hurting them financially. To what end, guys? To what end?
Right.
Okay, if you had an objective, which is to remove the uranium from Iran, I would agree, except we already did that under the Obama deal. So Trump, for no reason, again, except for his ego, ripped up that deal that was actually one of the best deals I've ever seen in covering politics for over 2 decades, okay? We got all the uranium out, and all we had to do was give them the money back that we stole from them. We froze all their accounts for just to hold it hostage. And I don't know that was the ethical thing to do, but I'll take it because we got a great deal and we got the uranium out. So if you care about not going into wars, which is what conservatives claim they care about, yeah, you're happy that Trump didn't fire the missiles, didn't listen to Bolton and Pompeo. But this kind of needlessly antagonizing one another is not gonna end well, because you know how thin-skinned your leader is.
So
you know it. You know it's all about his feelings.
I think you're about to have mixed feelings about the next video that we're gonna go to, because on one hand, it's terrifying what Trump is about to say. On the other hand, it goes to what you've been arguing about Trump for a very long time, and that is his lack of strategy. Take a look.
Strategy for Iran if war does break out?
You're not going to need an exit strategy. I don't need exit strategies.
I'm not gonna need an exit strategy. Disastrous, disastrous. And this is a pattern that you see with Donald Trump when it comes to foreign policy. He had a very similar reaction when reporters asked him what his plan was in regard to North Korea. So let's take a look at that. All right, so let's take a look at that video. This was before Trump was about to have his first summit with Kim Jong-un.
I think I'm very well prepared. I don't think I have to prepare very much. It's about attitude. It's about willingness to get things done. But I think I've been preparing for the summit for a long time. This isn't a question of preparation. It's a question of whether or not people want it to happen.
So he was not prepared, which is why he met with Kim Jong-un, had that summit, and there was absolutely nothing that came out of it. There was a flimsy, nonsense, non-binding agreement between the United States and North Korea. And did Kim Jong-un actually follow through with anything? No. Did they stop their nuclear program? No. Has Trump actually accomplished anything in denuclearizing any country? No. In fact, he has actually moved any progress that we had under the Obama administration backwards, especially when it comes to Iran.
Yeah, in fact, I'll give you a very specific example in the case of Iran. He's now saying we're gonna give sanctions to anyone who will take uranium out of Iran. Why would you do that? We don't want them to have the uranium, so why would you sanction anyone who's taking the uranium out of Iran? What an incredibly weird, counterproductive thing to do. So in terms of, look, there's 2 different mental derangements here. One is from Trump, and that one is obvious. I don't need an exit strategy. What? Come on, guys. I mean, really, even if you're a right winger, you're proud of that idiocy? I don't need a plan. What happened? I thought he played 3-dimensional chess. Which chess player says, I don't need a plan? And he said he didn't need a plan with North Korea and he blundered it. Thank God we're not in the middle of a war yet, but we got nothing to show for his efforts. Now in Iran, I'll take a stalemate because I so desperately don't want a war. That's gonna lead to the second conversation about derangement. But in terms of, if you think he knows what he's up to, a guy who says, I don't need an exit strategy, clearly doesn't know what he's up to. Hey, when you go in, how are you going to get out? But by the way, this is what he says about the presidency too. They put out a video the other day on Twitter about how he's gonna be president until 2068 or 3000, the year 3000 or whatever. Now, obviously it's partly tongue in cheek because he won't be around that long, but he does keep joking, prodding about how he might not leave office. That's the second time that he's done that. So he's setting it up for, I don't need an exit strategy. And that's how dictators talk.
Well, no, well, yes, that is how dictators talk. But more importantly, that's how the US military industrial complex talks. They don't want an exit strategy. I don't know if this is really what's going on with Trump when he made that statement. I genuinely think that he's just unprepared. But he's also kind of saying out loud what members of any administration aren't supposed to say out loud, which is, we want war, we do not want an exit strategy, we want this to be a perpetual war. Similar to what we're experiencing right now with Iraq, with Afghanistan. Let's keep our troops there as long as possible, not because we care about freedom or spreading democracy, because we care about making private contractors wealthy. We care about having access to cheap oil. Those are the reasons why we have these wars and have absolutely no exit strategy. Trump is actually saying what we've been experiencing for decades now.
Saying the quiet parts out loud, exactly right. Which leads me to the final derangement, which actually is now, for the first time, Trump derangement syndrome. So Obama derangement syndrome existed in the right wing and in Trump fevered, right? Oh my God, anything Obama did, including the Iran deal, doesn't matter the merits, they were opposed to it. Now, Trump has earned the ire of all Americans and there's 1,000 reasons to be against him. But now I'm sensing for the first time establishment people who are like, no, if Trump says it, I'm against it. So if Trump doesn't want to attack Iran, maybe we should attack Iran. No, we shouldn't attack Iran. Just think for a second, okay? Don't make the same mistake that the right wing does, which is I'm just unilaterally opposed to that guy. So for example, they're now all of a sudden talking about how George W. Bush was not a bad president. Why? Why would a progressive ever say that? He was a terrible president. He didn't think about getting into Iraq. He got into Iraq. And by the way, just like Trump, when we went to go invade Iraq, there's a famous moment where the generals explain what the plan is, and they go, step one, the invasion. Step two, you get to Baghdad, you occupy Baghdad. Then step three, you occupy the whole country. Step four, which is what happens after you take over the country, was called, the slide was literally TBD, to be determined. In other words, they didn't have an exit strategy in Iraq either. But a lot of the mainstream media cut him a break because he was an establishment Republican. And today, a lot of so-called progressives and Democrats and people in the media are like, oh, Bush was good, Trump is bad. No, Bush was a disaster. And Trump, if he keeps us out of Iran, actually will not be as bad as Bush, assuming that we still have a democracy if and when he exits. But now Trump derangement syndrome has kicked in. So people are like, no, that's it. Bush was good, and if Trump doesn't want to attack Iran, we should attack Iran. That's a disastrous idea. Know how to criticize them while keeping your sanity.
All right, let's move on to the next story.
The only one with a very distinct Medicare For All plan out there is Bernie Sanders. And he wants to replace the entire healthcare system, including Medicare, and put a universal plan in place along the lines of Medicare for everybody. That's not going to happen.
You know who she works for?
All right, that was Stephanie Cutter, Obama's former deputy campaign manager, who clearly laid out her disdain for Medicare for All in a recent video. Now, she was hoping that video would not end up online. Oops. And you should hear what else she had to say.
House Democrats are having a hearing on Medicare for All. Most of the candidates on the Democratic side, all 24 of them, I don't know if anybody has joined the last 24 hours, have either commented on Medicare for All or have signed on to it. But what does that really mean? That's a really good question because nobody knows exactly what Medicare for All means. The only one with a very distinct Medicare for All plan out there is Bernie Sanders. And he wants to replace the entire healthcare system, including Medicare, and put a universal plan in place along the lines of Medicare for everybody. That's not going to happen. First of all, I don't think Bernie will be president. Don't tweet that because there'll be a lot of hate on my Twitter. But I don't think he's going to be the president.
Well, she's certainly getting a lot of hate on Twitter today because that video was made public, and I want to give you some more details on who Stephanie Cutter is. Now, as I mentioned, she used to work for the Obama administration. In fact, she helped with his 2012 re-election campaign, and then she went on to be a co-founder for something known as Precision Strategies, which does consulting work for various corporations, politicians. In fact, I wanted to do a little more digging on her. There hasn't been a lot of reporting on her, but Precision Strategies does get a considerable amount of funding from the private healthcare industry.
No, it's weird because she didn't mention that there.
Of course she didn't. So let me give you a little bit from her bio, and you can find her bio at Precision Strategies website. It says, at Precision, Stephanie has improved the brand of one of the nation's largest health insurers during a controversial merger.
Oh, good for her.
She also successfully launched a news network. I don't know which news network they're referring to, restored the reputation of a multinational financial institution.
She must be so proud.
It goes on and on and on. Now, once you look at the funding for Precision Strategies, it all really makes sense. So these aren't all of the donors, but these are some of the top donors in 2016. There's Renaissance Technologies, which is a hedge fund manager. You have Blackstone Group, $1.26 million. Carlyle Group, $755,814. Microsoft Group, $689,078. Comcast Corporation, Goldman Sachs, the list goes on and on. But once you look at the top industries that donate to this organization, you'll find that the health services and HMOs have actually contributed $4,936,712 to Precision Strategies in 2016 alone. By the way, these are the health professionals who have contributed the money. If you look at health services and HMOs, they've contributed $2,533,315, again, in 2016 alone. So she has all the incentive in the world, millions and millions of dollars, to go ahead and defend these private insurers, the private health insurance company, to the detriment of Americans who are suffering under this current system.
Yeah, the first list that you read with Blackstone and Goldman, et cetera, is all the top financial companies. So they basically she represents the big banks, big financial institutions, and the big healthcare companies. So it is not surprising that she would come out and be completely opposed to any kind of progressive change, specifically in healthcare. So look, Obama gets a lot of deference, both from Democrats and from the mainstream media. Now, compared to Trump, you can see why, right? I mean, the guy was sane, he was relatively logical, he was even-tempered, he was an adult, he was a good manager and steward, okay? And so he maintained the economy, he brought down the deficit, all those positive things, right? But that's where it ends. Was he a great leader that accomplished a lot of policy positions that brought us a ton of change? No. That's why I said he was a good manager of the economy and of the government, but he didn't really try for big change. The only thing he tried for was the Affordable Care Act. Now he got that, it was an improvement on the system, but no one disputes that that was originally a plan cooked up by the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank funded by the Koch brothers. So if your big claim to fame is, I got a Heritage Foundation plan passed when I had a supermajority in Congress, it is hard to make the case that you made dramatic changes. In fact, the only way you could make that case is if you're so biased in favor of the establishment and the status quo that you then say, or you just don't know that much about politics, and that's fair. A lot of people have other jobs, right? But in those cases, you could say, oh wow, he was amazing. But if you know politics, you say that's not a lot of wins to put up on the board if all of your campaign placards read change. But it's one thing to criticize Obama, I think, on these legitimate issues, and there are many others. It's another thing when they take that reverence and put it on everyone who worked in the Obama administration. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now we're not even close. So Obama hired a ton of people who were totally pro-establishment, did not want change at all. People who were lobbyists before, people who are lobbyists now. I mean, it was the same old Washington group. And Stephanie Cutter is a great example of it. So you're telling me just because she worked for Obama, I'm supposed to respect her? Sorry, no deal at all. So now she says, I'm not gonna not only not fight for positive change, I'm gonna fight tooth and nail against it. Why? Because I get paid to do that.
That's right.
That's fine, you can do it, but you are part of the corruption. So you can get all hurt over it. Like, I can't believe they called me corrupt just because I took $5 million from the health care companies and then $2.5 million from other health care companies. Some are insurance, some are HMOs, some are health professionals. And then I took millions upon millions of dollars from the Goldman Sachs and all those guys. And you're calling me corrupt? Yes, yes, I am calling you corrupt. That's how corruption works. They bribe you, in this case legally, then you go do their bidding. And that's your job. And you say, what am I supposed to do? I'm a lobbyist. Okay, that's fine. You can be a lobbyist, but then I get to call you corrupt because you are serving those people and you are working against the interests of the American people because you literally get paid to do that. And then when you come in with your snide little, don't worry about it, because Bernie Sanders isn't ever gonna win. Okay, yeah, not remotely interested in your opinion that was literally paid for by those same corporations that Bernie Sanders wants to hold accountable.
What I also found interesting about what she said in that video is how she differentiated Bernie Sanders from the rest of the Democratic candidates. Essentially, I mean, maybe this is just her analysis and maybe she's wrong, but it did raise a few red flags in my mind. She specifically pointed to Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders is genuine in wanting to fight for Medicare for All, right? And so you hear a lot of candidates saying that they support Medicare for All, and then in various interviews or in various situations where their aides will talk to the press, they kind of backpedal on that. And I just want to be clear about something. In the primaries, it needs to be abundantly clear who does and does not support Medicare for All. And for me, I mean, there are these conversations and these debates about litmus tests. That is a litmus test for me in the primaries, period, right? This whole notion of improving the Affordable Care Act is not good enough, not even close. So I think it means something if they're specifically targeting Bernie Sanders. I think that he's definitely genuine, and I think that worries them.
So look, guys, there are some things that are clear and there are some things that are not clear. So they're the lobbyists and the corporations that have been sucking off the American people and ripping us off all this time by legally bribing politicians, getting their subsidies, not allowing us to negotiate drug prices. That's borderline criminal, right? And they did it because they bought off Bush. Then let's keep it real. Obama, the Obama people say, no, he had to do it. He had to do it, otherwise we couldn't get the Heritage Foundation plan passed, okay? That's a curious argument for had to do it. But Obama said in his ads in 2008, that's why I supported him. I supported him over Hillary Clinton. He said it's outrageous that we're not negotiating drug prices. Turned around, made a deal. Made a deal with the people that are now financing his former aides like Stephanie Cutter and said, we will not negotiate. Then Trump said, we gotta negotiate. Trump gets in, the most corrupt out of all of them, and comes in and goes, I'm not gonna negotiate. I'm gonna give the drug companies whatever they want. It turns out they give me money, that's all I care about. I'm sick of the corruption. So one thing we know for sure is the corrupt say, not Bernie Sanders. Whatever you do, not Bernie Sanders. Okay, you guys are very clear about that. Thank you for that clarity, okay? The other side is also clear. Joe Biden. Joe Biden says, went to a room full of rich donors and said, I'm not gonna change anything. Nothing will fundamentally change, and I promise I'm gonna look out for you. He literally said those things. So the donors are like, yes, Biden, great on Biden, wonderful on Biden. The parts that are not clear are people like Kamala Harris, and look, I think Elizabeth Warren is really close to clear, but I've got to make an important point about that in a second. Kamala Harris says she's for Medicare for All, but yet a lot of the Hillary Clinton donors love Kamala Harris. And And then her aides walk back her comments right after the town halls. So it leads us to wonder, and only Kamala Harris can answer the question, but it leads us to wonder, do those donors and lobbyists know something we don't know, right? Now, there was some question about exactly where Elizabeth Warren stood, and she just recently signed the Progressive Economic Pledge. That's on tyt.com/pledge. A lot of you have signed it as well, but it's a big deal for her to say, yes, I will fight for Medicare for all. So it is absolutely clear in that sense. But I think that at some point, it is going to become incumbent upon her to say, these people do not speak for me. Because there's a lot of people jumping out there without getting her permission. And the Third Ways of the World and the Stephanie Cutters and all these people going around saying, oh yeah, Warren's good. Warren, don't worry about Warren. Bernie, you gotta worry about. They're not doing Elizabeth Warren any favors at all. So at some point, Elizabeth Warren's gotta make a decision and go public and say, thanks, but no thanks. I am not interested in your support. I hope she does that because that'll make it extra clear.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with you there. We gotta take a break. When we come back, ABC News World Tonight edited a video deceptively, and it had to do with a police brutality story. We're gonna show you how they cut the video. We're gonna show you the original video and give you the details on the story when we return.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you wanna get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me read a couple of tweets for you guys first. First member section, Gabby B says, oh good, I'm glad our international diplomacy has been reduced to literally the language of third graders when they try to bully each other. I'm not the R word, you're the R word. Yeah, that's literally what's happening. Unbelievable. All right, Progressive Pete says, how's Medicare for All confusing? Medicare is an existing nonprofit government-run health coverage provider, and all means everybody. The only reason why it's confusing is because some of the politicians want to have it both ways. They want to say they're for Medicare for All so they can get your votes, and then turn around and tell the donors, I don't really mean it, okay? So, all right, now on to less important but fun things to read. From Twitter, Queen.fa writes in, Anna serving us the fashion colors. Colors are beautiful on you, girlfriend.
Thank you.
Cenk, you're pretty too. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thanks guys, I really appreciate that.
Okay, I like how they didn't even bother showing me when I said it. All right, anyway, last one is Pietro Basso writes in, really hope Bernie will use the footage of Steph Cutter, for a former Obama staffer, shilling for private health insurance companies and saying Bernie will not be president. He's got to add that into a Medicare for All video. The establishment's disdain is the ultimate endorsement. And I think that's really true. I wrote that recently. Actually, the establishment is really hurting Elizabeth Warren with progressives. If they wanted her to win, they're ironically doing more damage to her than they realize, because they're just such knuckleheads. They think, oh my God, I bet the American people love the establishment. So we'll say we all hate Bernie, but not Warren. No! And then in a weird turnaround, some establishment people were like, oh, see, Cenk speaking out against Elizabeth Warren. No, I've been defending her from day one, and I think she's a wonderful progressive. I'm genuinely worried that these endorsements she didn't ask for are gonna be an albatross around her neck. They think Stephanie Cutter is popular. Nobody knows Stephanie Cutter. All they know is some lobbyist says not Bernie, but Warren's okay. That's terrible for Warren. If you cared about her, you wouldn't do that. But they can't see outside their own bubble. Inside of Washington, they're like, oh, everybody loves lobbyists, right? Everybody loves lobbyists, right? No, nobody likes lobbyists.
Yeah, so let me tell you about Aspiration. It's a financial institution and we love them. The reason why we love them is because it's one of the few places, if not the only place, where you can put your money and they will not invest it in any shady companies, including the fossil fuel industry. So check them out, go to aspiration.com/TYT.
Okay, and it's a win-win. Look, guys, it's good for us, it's good for you guys, it's good for Aspiration, and companies that become more progressive because you guys like it is a wonderful thing. So you go support that, and you could just move a little bit of your money in there, and it only takes a couple of minutes. So one last thing, the rally in Miami Now we've got new speakers, and you guys are going to be live, and you're going to be part of the show. 8 o'clock to 8:30 Eastern. So I'm going to speak, Anna's going to speak, but also Adam Green from PCCC, former Justice Democrat Pam Keefe, who ran for office there, who's a wonderful progressive. Kai Newkirk, who led Democracy Spring, the movement to get money out of politics, led civil disobedience there. So all those folks are going to show up, and it looks like we are soon going to have some presidential candidates confirmed. So they will come and speak at the rally as well. Don't miss it.
Damn.
You've got to get information on it through tyt.com/rally. When you give us your email or any way to communicate with you guys, the phone number, etc., we can text you information on exactly where to meet, because we're also gonna have a watch party afterwards, and we're gonna try to get you guys as much media and presidential attention as we possibly can. We do this together. It worked wonderfully in Iowa. Let's go do it again in Miami. And don't forget, the whole point is sign the pledge, because we now have Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, 4 presidential candidates overall, AOC, Ro Khanna, Jamie Raskin, etc., have all signed. And the more you guys sign, the more pressure there is for politicians to say, yes, this is what progressives stand for. So tyt.com/pledge. Let's go make that happen. And Anna and I will see you tomorrow in Miami.
Yes. All right, let's move on. Metro Transit Police in DC are launching an internal investigation following surveillance of an officer using a taser on an unarmed black man. Now, this story by itself is pretty terrible, but there's an added layer of bad behavior when you consider the way ABC and World News Tonight specifically deceptively edited the video of the encounter. Now, we're going to show you the way they edited the video, and then we're going to show you the full context. Take a look.
So my name is Shamir. We gonna stay right here, and we gonna make sure that everybody's taken care of. Okay? Hold on, whoa. He's all right. He's all right. He's all right. He's all right. Hold on. He's all right. Hey. Not necessary. Not necessary. Just get down. He's not even resistant. He's not even resistant. He's not even resistant. He's all right. He's down. How many tasers does it take to take down a grown man? He's down.
Now, the officers were responding to calls involving 2 minors who were allegedly threatening people with sticks. So they show up and they start investigating. And then there was a 3rd man, a black man that got tased, who was asking questions as these 2 minors were being confronted by officials, right? Or not by officials, but by the cops. And so things escalated to the point where a 3rd officer shows up and he starts tasing the black man, even though he was unarmed and even though his hands were up in the air. But if you looked at that ABC News World Tonight footage, you would think that the black man posed some sort of threat to the cops. Now let's take a look at the full context. And by the way, hat tip to Jordan Ewell, who posted about this on Twitter. Let's take a look.
So my name is Shamir. We gonna stay right here, and we gonna make sure that everybody's taken care of. Okay? What I don't want is one of these colonizers trying to get on y'all about something, because then I'm gonna have to go off, and I ain't got my nails done. All right? So we gonna calm down real quick. All right. Hold on. Whoa. He's all right. He's all right. He's all right. He's all right. Hold on. He's all right. Hey. Get the baby. Chill. Not necessary. Just get down. Yo, not necessary. That is not necessary. He's not even resistant. He is okay. Stop. Yo, I'm right here. Y'all need to stop. He's not even stop. Just lay down. Stop, babe. Stop. Yo, let him go. He's all right. He's down. He can't move. He's down. Leave him alone. He is down.
God damn. New run the metro.
How many tasers does it take to take down a grown man? He's down.
Give me the other hand.
So I'd argue that the full context is important because it tells a full story of what really went down. And there also seems to be some mixed messaging coming from the Metro Police in DC. So let's go to graphic 17. Metro, according to NBC Washington, Also said the third officer in the video used the taser because the man who had not been detained was interfering in the police investigation and, quote, exhibited behavior consistent with preparing to fight the officer.
Can I gotta jump in there. Okay, so there's no winning. You saw the video, he put his hands up. And so, but you're supposed to put your hands up with the cops. And they said the fact that he raised his hands was an indication that he was getting in a fighting posture. But wait, they tell you to raise your hands. So if your hands are down, like Philando Castile's was, you're gonna get shot and killed. If your hands are up, you're gonna get tased. So now, who did the guy push the officer, or did the officer push the guy? You just saw it. You just saw it. And was the guy's hands up? Yes, it was. And it wasn't enough, so he tased him. By the way, that guy took a taser like nobody's business. So
that's what upset the cop in the beginning, right? He tases him once, it didn't have an impact, and then he proceeds to tase him over and over again, to the point where the man is on the ground and he is unable to move, and they're still tasing him.
No, and this is the number one problem, which is that we teach our cops all across the country that you don't take anything from anybody, okay? You put them down. And so when you teach them to rage, and you teach them that no one is ever allowed to, quote unquote, disrespect you, and nobody's ever allowed to talk back to you, well, this is what results. This is what happens. You shouldn't be surprised. Stop being surprised. If you teach them to do something, they'll do it. So stop teaching them to constantly abuse civilians who question cops. They're supposed to be our cops. I know it sounds funny, right? Because they seem to mainly protect the rich, and obviously we've seen it over and over again. Another unarmed black guy, and then they turn around. They're always surprised that people are angry, like, oh, I guess people are upset about it. I mean, yeah, we know you've been doing it for decades, but now we can see with our own eyes.
So as I mentioned, at first, the Metro Police told NBC that the man had not been detained. And then later on, after this video, the full context goes viral, they put out a different statement, and I want to tell you what that statement says. After the subject disregarded warnings to move back, the officer deployed his department-issued taser and was able to take the man into custody. But wait a minute. At first, it said that he was not detained, right? That's what NBC Washington was told by this very department. So I don't get it. Why are they now saying that he had been detained?
And a police department in America would never lie. The police are angels. I mean, look, they asked juries, hey, if a cop is on the stand, he's more credible than the average citizen. Really, does anyone believe that anymore? I mean, that seems preposterous. And then they were surprised when OJ got off. I don't think he should have gotten off, but there was a jury pool that had seen for their entire lives African Americans in this country abused, lied about, beat upon, and framed over and over and over again. And back then there wasn't as much video. That was the beginning of video when we saw the Rodney King beatings, right? And whenever African Americans said, they're beating us up nonstop, people are like, oh sure, yeah, right. Who are we supposed to believe? The entire African American community in the country, tens of millions of people, or a bunch of cops we paid to kick your ass? No, we're gonna believe the cops. So yeah, we're tired of it. We're tired of it. And when I say we, I mean all decent Americans.
Well, let me just say one thing. For the longest time, I thought that people would deny what was really going on with excessive force and brutality. And then I realized that no, they're not simply denying it. They know the truth. They know what's really happening. It's just that acknowledging what's really happening would, maybe lead to some changes, and they don't want changes, right? So what made me realize that is what's happening with children at the border right now. Children who are literally dying, 6 of them have died so far in Border Patrol custody because of the conditions that they're being kept in. So there's evidence of that now, there's no denying it, and people know. And so what has the right wing response been to that? So what? They don't care. They don't care. So they acknowledge what's happening, maybe not publicly, but they know what's really happening with police brutality. The thing is, they love it. They don't want it to change.
No, but there's an important caveat. Unless it's the Bundy Ranch people,
right?
It's right wingers, it's white right wingers. Oh, forget about it. How dare the cops point weapons at beloved white right-wing ranchers just because the right-wing ranchers pointed guns at them and threatened to murder all the cops. No, the cops should stand down. This is police abuse. It's police abuse when the cops look to protect themselves from right-wing extremists who are threatening to murder them. That's apparently police abuse. But kicking the living crap out of minorities year after year, decade after decade, not police abuse. Gee, I wonder if they're racially motivated. And then the great irony is they'll turn around and go, oh, you guys are making it about race. No, you were making it about race when you constantly attack minorities in this country and then give ridiculous, insane privilege to right-wingers who happen to be white. And then you say, well, I don't see race. All I see is white people that are right-wingers should all be protected, and the cops should bow down to them, and the government should bow down to them. But if it's a minority, the government has every right to kick them and beat them and do whatever they want to them. What you're doing is crystal clear. Little tiny extra piece of irony in this particular story. This happened at the metro stop of U Street, but it's also known as African American Civil War Memorial, Cardozo Station. So it doesn't matter. In Washington, D.C., African Americans are the majority. But somehow they get abused anyway, because that's what power does. And yes, it's about damn time we fought back. I don't mean physically, I mean legally and politically. We have to gain control so that cops wind up protecting and serving all of us and not just the rich and powerful.
We'll be right back.